over Santa Monica. City of angels, under the western sun. City of angels, at the ocean front. City of angels, under the western sun. Down on Soto, in East Los, to the ports of San Pedro. Angelinos know what it means. They got Caronca and they go to the heart of the city, Palm Beach. Another heat wave in the valley. Just some more hot pursuit, freeway bank robbery. Tinseltown's got their head in the clouds. Everybody hurry home before the city burns itself down. City of angels, under the western sun. City of angels, at the ocean front. City of angels, under the western sun. You must see the world. Another meltdown in LA town. Down on these busy streets, there's a city watching over me. Under the western sun. City of angels, at the ocean front. City of angels, under the western sun. City of angels, you are the only one.
So we started out with the Generators. That song was called City of Angels. You're listening to the punk rock demonstration. That song's been stuck in my head for the past couple days, so I figured I'd play it so that way it'll get out of my head. But maybe it'll just reinforce that it's stuck in my head. Who knows, we'll find out later. My website, punkrockdemo.com. Again, that's punkrockdemo.com. I just ripped off the page on my calendar labeled June because it's now July. A little late, but close enough. We've got plenty of cool things happening on today's program. We've got an interview with the Generators. That's what we're going to start off with right now. And then we're going to play some music you've never heard of before, mixed along with songs you're familiar with, and then mixed along with some requests and some songs you've never heard of before. Figured I'd mix it up today because I kind of pre-wrote the playlist and then decided to put the new songs in between so that way I don't use another piece of paper. So yes, it's going to be an interesting show. We're going to continue with some more Generators songs, and then I'll play that interview we did with the Generators at the Old Town Pub in Pasadena right after that. We're going to take a listen to this song called Wrong Side of the Tracks by the Generators.
City
Hello, what's up? You're listening to the punk rock demonstration. I'm Jack, right here in Pasadena at the...
We're at the Old Town Pub in Pasadena. This is one of the oldest bars here in the area. As you can see, there's these old buildings that have been here since the early 1900s. This used to be called the Loch Ness Pub, which was one of the first kind of English pubs in Pasadena. And now it's the Old Town Pub, but we're standing in an alleyway it's really old and has a lot of history here.
Yeah,
So.
I walked around this block like 3 times and I couldn't find the place, so I wasn't sure where it was.
Yeah, and that's cooler, right? Yeah, it's not just sitting out there on the street. It's off the beaten path. So.
So yes, we're out here in Pasadena with the Generators. What's your name and what do you do in the band?
My name's Doug Kane. I'm the singer.
Mike Snow, guitar.
And this is what, your 20th anniversary show? Is that what's going on?
Yeah, it's the 20th anniversary. Started in the very end of 1996. We were really geared up in 97. So it's our 20th anniversary show. Our tour kicks off. You know, we have a pretty much U.S. European tour that kicks off here tonight.
So this is the kickoff show, or is it just an anniversary show?
Actually, I would say it's an anniversary show and a kickoff show because we start here tonight and then we leave on tour on Thursday. We have Crongen, the UK punk band, shows up on here with us on Thursday in San Diego. So
I saw that, and you're also playing with Corrupted Youth, which is accelerating.
Yeah, right. So Corrupted Youth East LA punk band is going to be opening up that tour. So it's going to be very cool tour.
So usually we catch bands when they're on tour. So we're catching you before your tour starts. So what should we expect on this tour? Any craziness?
I don't know, a little. Yeah, I don't
Did you
maybe.
predict?
I don't know. That's you'll have to.
Wait,
depending on where you
call
are.
the lawyer first.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, depending on what city we might be in, or how much we've had to drink. You know, but it's all unpredictable territory.
Well, we can't predict where we're going. So where are you guys going? You said Europe and United States?
Yeah, we leave. We'll be here doing Southern California dates next weekend with Crongen, Corrupted Youth, in San Diego at the Casbah, Los Globos, Observatory, and then we leave.
Vegas.
They go to Vegas. We meet them up in Arizona, then we go down into Texas, Oklahoma for the Fuck You We Rule OK festival, which is a big punk festival in Tulsa. Okay, then they head home, and then we head over to Europe, and we're playing Rebellion Festival in England, and then Endless Summer outside of Berlin, and we play the Boomtown Fair with the Specials outside of London. So we're gearing up right now. It's getting ready to go.
It's going to finish in like, what, 2 weeks, or what's going on?
Oh, no, we'll be out on tour all summer for the most part. We'll be back home sometime in August.
You know, we never talked about where you guys are from. So where are you guys from?
Right here.
Pasadena?
Yeah. We're actually Pasadena kids, and Mike's, you know, me and Mike have known each other since we were about 12 years old, and which was 1982, and we played in different bands, but our bands played together as kids, and so his family ran a store right on the corner there, and if you go up this alleyway right here, this was Perkins Palace, which is a famous old venue where you would have seen
Exploited every 6 months.
Exploited or Discharge or Suicidal Tendencies to the Jam to the Specials, or you've seen Van Halen and Spinal Tap, that famous kind of move. It was kind of a cliche rock movie, was filmed in there.
Guns N' Roses' big gig that broke 'em was in there, if that means anything to anybody.
Theater there, which is no longer there, but these alleyways back in the early 80s were filled with punk rockers. And so our history, my first band played in this building upstairs in 1983. So this whole area is very much a part of our roots, and that's why we always do our anniversary shows here once a year.
Just our neighborhood show, get our friends that still live here down here, and pretty much everybody in there has some connection to each other that's decades old, so yeah, it's really quite cool, you know, to have all your old friends and everybody come just hang out in a place that you grew up in, and just everybody doing their thing, you know.
For people that can't see, we're in the middle of an alley with like brick buildings everywhere, so that's where we're at. So let's take a listen to a song by you guys. You're reissuing an album, I hear. What is the name of that album?
Last of the Pariahs, which Dr. Strange's release, which we recorded in 2010, and and we were fortunate to have Dr. Strange re-release this record because it was very limited here in America. It was only released on CD, and it had very limited vinyl release in Europe, and so it's back out now, and we're happy that the songs are getting out to people again, and so people can hear that album. That album means a lot to us.
Yeah.
And we'll talk a little bit more about what all happened in that album in a moment, but we'll take a listen to a song off of that album. So let's take a listen to the song called Condition Red, but I believe that's off of that album, is that correct?
That's right, yeah.
What is that song all about?
It's actually a song that we kind of wrote during the post 9/11, and it was about the paranoia. The lyrics are about kind of the paranoia that was going on in the country, and Condition Red was a term that was used like more or less when they were ratcheting up the whatever was going on, the state of alert within the country with terrorism. So it's a very song based upon the Bush years and the paranoia going on in the country post 9/11.
So let's take a listen to that song. It's called Condition Red by the Generators. We're out here with the Generators in Pasadena. You're listening to the Punk Rock Demonstration.
This is Radio Los Angeles.
Welcome back. That was Angels Looking Down by the Generators. We're out here with the Generators in Pasadena. You're listening to the punk rock demonstration. I'm Jack. What's that one all about, Angels Looking Down?
Yeah, Angels Looking Down is about reuniting with my son that I lost in the late 80s. I lost my son through a bad situation, and when I reunited with my son 21 years later and I found my son, I wrote that. Those lyrics were based upon finding my kid that day. So extremely emotional song for me, and it was, and it's pretty cool to be able to put those moments into lyrics and into music and be able to look back on it now and kind of reconnect with all these songs about how I was feeling at the moment, and having Mike there to be able to translate that musically. And that's how we work together. It's kind of like, hey, here you go, this is about this, can we, I'm getting this kind of idea off this, how can we do this, and Angels Looking Down is, it's about my son. And
I think that's a really good song. It's like the first one off the album.
That's
too.
right.
I think that was one of the favorites that I had. It seems the songs that have more about you, they come out better than just a song you write.
Yeah, it's kind of funny you say that, because I was just on the road today with my mom, and I was taking her down to the beach for a party, and she had a party to go to with one of her old friends, and we were discussing the old punk days, and my mom had probably witnessed all this crazy shit that went on in the early 80s with all this recklessness and self-destruction. And some of these songs were written during times that were just and I can't even reconnect with those times again, because I'm not feeling that kind of pain anymore. And in all reality, it's like some people got into the Generators because they connected with those songs that were super depressing, or maybe they connected with something that they felt, oh wow, that's a super painful song. And right now, things are going decent for me. This record was kind of a little bit of a time when things were changing for me. Things were getting a little bit better, but there was still a little bit of that stuff going on. And and music talks, man, and music can be music's emotional, and that's the power of music, whether it's anger or it's sadness or whatever it is. You listen to records you might like, and you connect with them, and it's because they feed some kind of energy to you.
Yeah, I've noticed a lot of your songs are very dark and just really emotional musically.
Yeah, some of them are, and
Your life's been kind of dark.
Yeah, I've been through a lot of stuff, and and I've been able to translate that into the music. Okay, and right now I know that a lot of people like a lot of that stuff, and it's like right now I'm in another space, but we're still writing strong music. We have a new record that'll be coming out soon, and it's not so dark. It's more returns to the early roots of the band. We're very not emotional. It's very 77 punk rock inspired street punk. Just like any band, you go through. Every band goes through these changes, right? They start off like this, they go through this, and they come out this other way. Right now, and Last to the Pariahs was kind of a record that was a transition point for the Generators, going back to the way the band started. So all I can say is we ran. Maybe it was 14 years, and then we started transitioning back with this album to the way the band kind of started out.
We're talking about the early days of the Generators. How did the name the Generators come about?
We sat around and we had a bunch of names.
Threw darts in a dictionary.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things. There was a bunch of names thrown out in the beginning, and we never, for me personally, when we started this band, it came out of another band, and I had been on the road for many years, and I did not want to fall into a stressful situation by getting another band, getting in the van, go, do. And I was just like, you know what? I just want to have fun. I want to have fun with this band, because I'm the kind of guy, when I jump in, I'm 110% committed. And I knew that. So I said, hey, some of the other members of the band were like, well, we're going to do this, that, and the other thing. And I'm like, hey, wait a minute. I just came out of that, and I just want to have a good time. And that's how the band kind of started. It was Welcome to the End, which is our first record that Dr. Strange Records put out, re-released. That was not originally on Triple X Records, re-released that, and we released that record with Dr. Strange. That record was all built upon we went in the studio with no conditions. Let's just go have a good time. And that record is maybe one of the most special records of the band, because there wasn't any kind of pressure from anybody.
It was a giant tribute album for us. It was like all the stuff that we loved. We just kind of threw it all together and came up with a record doing stuff that was a direct reflection of that. And
there was
it
never
came across
any
very
agenda
well.
or, hey, you need to do this record and go out on tour, and we need to do this, that, and that thing. It's like, no, we just need to go into the recording studio and record some songs. And what are we listening? Oh, we're listening to The Dam right now, and a lot of Stiff Little Fingers of the Clash, and hey, we have this song, and it sounds like that, and like, cool. And that record now has become for our fans, that record has become a very meaningful album.
So did you find Doctor Strange, or did Doctor Strange find you?
No, I've known Doctor Strange. I found Doctor Strange in an alleyway.
Back when he was in medical school.
Yeah.
Doing strange doctor
Yeah,
stuff.
no, I found Doctor Strange. I sent Doctor Strange a demo tape in about 1991. Okay, when he just started out releasing singles and maybe an album. Maybe he had 1 or 2 albums out. And my prior band, Schlep Rock, and I saw in Maximum Rock and Roll or something like that, a Dr. Strange ad, and I said, oh, there's a record label. I need to send that guy a demo tape because maybe he'll put out our record. And I met him behind a very famous club called Spanky's, which became the Showcase Theater later on. But Spanky's was the club of Riverside, where bands like Face to Face and Guttermouth and Voodoo Glow Skulls, all these bands started out of there as well as Schlep Rock did. And I met Dr. Strange in the doorway when he said, hey, dude, I'm Bill from Dr. Strange Records. You sent me a demo tape. I said, I sure did. He said, I like it. I like to release something with you up the road. That was very early on relationship.
So when did that vinyl come out, Welcome to the End?
Dr. Strange just released the vinyl for Welcome to the End last year. Okay, but the original vinyl, in 1997, there was no more vinyl. Vinyl was done, right? So it was all
my parents throwing out the record player.
It was all CD, but we did go into Europe, and they did bootleg this album without Triple X Records, whose Triple X Records was Jane's Addiction, Social Distortion, The Vandals, GBH, Bo Diddley. Triple X was an underground label, independent label in Hollywood, and we were signed to that label where we put Welcome to the End out. But it was never truly released here on vinyl. Okay, so Dr. Strange Records re-released that last year for the first time in the United States on vinyl.
I noticed you have a bonus track on there. Was that part of the original one too?
No, it wasn't. We went in and we wanted to do something special, super special for Dr. Strange Records. So we went in and me and Mike put together an acoustic track, went into our studio, and we put a little effort into it. It wasn't something just like, hey, there was some thought that went into it, and the song's called Destroy Hollywood, and that's a very reminiscent to the old punk days in the early 80s in Hollywood, about all the street punk kids that were living on the streets. There's a lot of homeless kids back in those days that were living underneath the freeway, living in the parks, and they would be at the punk shows, and they had nowhere to go. So that song's kind of got that story of those kinds of kids.
I noticed on the cover of that Welcome to the End album, it's missing a track, but it's got the bonus track on there. So
Yeah.
Who made that boo-boo?
Oh, that was me, straight up. I take accountability for that fuck up. Yeah, that we I don't know what happened, It's moving too fast, and it's cool because it's punk rock, And if the Clash did it, we can do it too, so.
And I thought that was the bonus track.
No. We actually missed one of the songs on there, but it's just shit happens. Shit happens, man.
Well, let's take a listen to that album since we've been talking about it. It's the album Welcome to the End by the Generators. You're listening to the punk rock demonstration. Let's take a listen to You Against You. Is that off of that
No,
album?
it's Freedom.
Freedom is off that
Freedom,
album. I was
yeah,
close.
Freedom. Yeah, you're very close.
So let's take a listen to Freedom off of that album by the Generators called Welcome to the End. You're listening to the punk rock demonstration. We'll be back.
A burning candle slowly fades to black, like a tale told, the clock turned itself back. And out of the darkness a tyrant shows himself. And once again history repeats itself. Mothers, take your children far away, for the soldiers march on this darkest day. And millions of voices go silent, the curtains close, faces become divided. Never thought that it could happen here. Today, take it all away. They're gonna take our freedom away. Take it all away. They're gonna take our freedom away. Back to the cupboards, all the children go. As the doors break down in a tyrant's stranglehold. And once a flame that burned so bright slipped through our fingers, all right by right. And yesterday's light's not coming back. Today, take it all away. They're gonna take our freedom away. Take it all away. They're gonna take our freedom away. Where you gonna go when it's time to run? Stuck in the clampdown, breaking rocks in the hot sun. And out come the tear gas and riot sticks, the rumble of the tanks and the helicopters. Oh, I got a right to live. Today, they're gonna take our freedom away. They're gonna take our freedom away. Take it all away. They're gonna take our freedom away.
Welcome back. That was Freedom by the Generators. I'm not even drunk yet, and we're having some issues
you
here.
will be soon. Bill gets everybody intoxicated.
Uh-oh. In that case, we better hurry up and wrap this up. So we're out here with the Generators in Pasadena. So talking about the Generators, and now we've got the internet and all that stuff. How's the SEO on your website?
I have no fucking idea what you're talking about. I don't know. Our website's happened. It's there. The website's been there for at least 15 years.
What is the website?
www.the-generators.com. It's there. It's been there for a really long time. It's updated when we can. I'm not, the band's not so internet savvy. We try to keep up with it. We're really busy on the road, and this isn't we don't run this thing like, maybe the way it should be, or big business band. We're a punk band, and we do the best we can, and just, that's it.
Yeah, I'm like a super tech savvy guy. So what I meant earlier was, you know how people like search on Google and whatever
Yeah,
for
that's
things.
right, yeah.
If they search for the band, or if they search for the word generators, do they find the band, the Generators?
I think maybe they do, or like if they put
With
Generators.
the band that they find,
The
of course,
Generators punk rock.
gas-powered generators and that stuff
Yeah.
comes up just as much. But if you go to music,
I think
we're like the
if you
first
put
thing.
Generators punk rock, you're definitely going to find the band. There's been that much history that I think it comes up on the internet.
And it's 20 years now, so
Yeah.
definitely a lot of history. I think it's probably even older than the real Generators. You speak about old stuff and whatever. What were some of the old bands that you were part of? It's always interesting to hear what kind of band names people had.
Oh, there was a number of bands. Well, I did, Doctor Strange Records had Schlep Rock, which is started out in '89. So '89 to '96 was Schlep Rock for me. Before then, I had a Oi skinhead band called The Risk, and then before then I had an Oi band, which is one of the first Oi bands in Southern California, or maybe the West Coast, called Doug and the Slugs, and that was 1983 to about '85, and we played with a lot of the Ill Repute, Stalag 13.
What about Mike over here? What bands were you in before the Generators?
Oh, jeez. Well, going backwards, I was in Schlep Rock for about the last year they were around. And during and before that, I was in the Oi band The Choice from about 92 on. Before that was a band called Trudge over in Germany that I was in when I was in the Army, breaking down the wall. That was a lot of fun. And had a band over there called Trudge. It was like a 77 punk type thing. And before that, up until the time we were in school together, I had a band called The Subway that played different places than they did, but a lot of the same music. So
How did you get into this kind of music?
Poobahs.
My
Rodney on the Rock and older people.
Rodney on the
yeah,
Rock,
just-
or I was, shit, man, I think I was about 11 years
You're
old.
a kid, you're spinning it out.
I was
Whoa.
11 years old, and I wound up in Huntington Beach at my cousin's house, and I walked in, and he had Nevermind the Bollocks from the Sex Pistols, and he was playing Bodies, and it was fuck this, fuck that, and I was a Kiss kid. I was into Kiss, right? Yeah, and I heard that, and I was like, what is that? And then he probably threw on a Buzzcocks record and a Specials record. My life changed. That was it. I went home, and I was like, fuck all this shit. And I asked my mom, hey, Mom, she got on the driveway, and I said, you need to cut my hair right now.
You used to look like Mick Jagger in the 8th grade.
Yeah, we had long hair. We're 70s kids, skateboarding and Kiss and Cheap Trick and all that stuff. And then, that was it. That was a life-changing. Sex Pistols were a life-changing moment for me, and that turned into going to punk rock gigs in '81, and I became dedicated to the music. Shit, I don't know how long that's been now. Maybe there's a guy right over there who used to hang out with him, and his brother used to hang out with Joey Ramone and Darby Crash, right? Joey Ramone used to go to my buddy's right there, Phillips' house, and play pickup sticks, and we were kids, and he'd be walking around with a Germ shirt, and these are early days of being young teenagers and experiencing music and like and punk rock talk to us is like probably it talks to you. It's like, hey, I don't want to be into metal or pop rock, and it's like it's like I'm pissed off right now. I don't like my dad, I don't like my mom, and I don't like the fucking police, and I don't like my fucking teachers, and fuck these people, and this music's talking to me. I'm pissed off, and
It's better than other ways of being pissed off.
yeah, music is so powerful, and
Absolutely.
it's an amazing thing, and so it's like that's how it started. It started off with us early on, and here we are, and we're still at it, and we're still doing our thing, and we're hoping new kids can get involved, and let alone that the old guys will still be out and enjoying it as well.
What are some bands you're into now?
Obviously, I'm still listening to all the old bands that I listened to as a kid, but new bands, it gets a little tough, because I have to kind of process the albums and see if they hold something that's truthful to it, because there's so much new stuff out, and I don't want to sound jaded, but I like Bishop's Green. The Antagonizers out of Atlanta are cool. We just were on tour with Teenage Bottle Rocket. It's not really a new band, but they're cool at what they do too. I'm trying to think of newer bands. Corrupted Youth, cool. East LA, because they're keeping that spirit of East LA happening. That's very important for our city, and that scene. And they're kind of, they're running the ship for all that. So, I across different bands, and Suede Razors, who are older guys out of San Francisco, are kind of doing glam oi. I like them. There's also younger punk bands, Bad English, Sniper 66. These are cool younger bands who are kind of doing the UK 82 kind of stuff. And so I try to keep open-minded, and that can be tough for me sometimes because, again, I don't mean to be jaded, but I've seen a lot. So it's kind of like, I want to know that it's truthful and it's kind of relevant, but I got to keep an open mind to some of these kids. They weren't there to experience those days, so they're only experiencing what they're seeing or how they're feeling, and I got to be cool about that. And some stuff I like, and some stuff I don't.
Could also be developing into a new kind of experience for today's kids.
Exactly, and it's music, so I got to be open-minded to it, and there's so much going on, man, and it's like
with me, it either grooves or it doesn't. Whether the person doing it's 5 years old or 500 years old, it's a good song. It's a good song. If it's not a good song, what do you want from me?
Yeah, there's a lot of great bands coming out of Europe right now. I mean, you got oi bands like Lion's Law are good. Contra Records has got a lot of good stuff. Rondale Records has got a lot of good music coming out, and as long as the scene's keeping alive, and that's all that matters, and young kids can hopefully, because it all starts with the kids. It doesn't start with the old guys. It ends with the old guys. You can't have a punk scene unless you got young kids. So the scene dies unless you got young people coming into it. I've said it for a long time. If there is no scene without young people. It's got to be young kids. So it's like you got to have young kids putting out music, and that'll keep the scene alive, and that'll keep people interested, young kids, interested and involved in punk music.
Yep, let's take a listen to another song since we've been talking about music forever. Let's take a listen to Southern Nights. Yeah. That was one of the darker albums, I believe, right?
Yeah.
What was the theme of that album?
Well, that record was very okay. So this record is, I can tell you, is one of the for writing music is what the record that I'd be most proud of for music, for sitting and composing and arranging music and giving it a lot of thought. So The Devil in the Deep Blue Sea is not such a depressing album, but it's a very musical album, okay? And it was the very end of the rock and roll period for the Generators, okay? Because we had grown from a punk band to going into a direction of more of a punk and roll, rock and roll band. This record would have been the pivotal point for when our band stopped, kind of moved back into the direction of Last of the Pariahs. And Southern Nights was very country inspired, like Johnny Cash, Glenn Campbell, stuff like that, storytelling, and that's what it is.
Noticed that along with the Smoke and Mirrors song, that one was a really good one also. So I guess this is a really good song to end off the interview. So
it's a great song. We love this song. We're actually going to start playing it soon. So
where can people find more information about the band?
On Facebook, or on you can go to the Generators website, www.the-generators.com, or you can follow all the record labels like Dr. Strange Records or Rondale Records, or I don't know how many other record labels we're on, but yeah, you'll find it. If you look, you shall find.
Google also knows everything.
It's there.
So
it's there.
So you can find my website at punkrockdemo.com. So that was the Generators here in the punk rock demonstration. We ended off with Southern Nights by the Generators.
That girl's a by a hard-working daddy. She left the farm when she was just 17. Southern nights won't be the same. Stars fall like drops of rain. Tears tumble right from her eyes, crossing over the county line. Now this day is finally done. This beauty queen is moving on. Country roads, so long, so long. Started stripping in a Nashville bar. Went to Dallas and she stripped some more. She took it all off to make her way to the top, breaking hearts along the way. From Tallahassee to San Jose, went to California to try to get a big shot. Southern nights won't be the same. Stars fall like drops of rain. The big city's out to track her down. She will up and spittle out. Now she's missing those Jackson pines, Smoky Mountains in the summertime. So far away from those southern nights, rolling down the interstate, not a second, a moment too late. She's fast and oh so mean, the trailer park beauty queen. In the distance she sees her name, bright lights and dreams of fame. The bluegrass in Tennessee, well that's only a memory, yeah. Alright, come on now. Southern nights won't be the same. Stars fall like drops of rain. The big city's out to drag her down. She will up and spittle out. Now she's missing those Jackson pines, Smoky Mountains in the summertime. So far away from those southern nights, from those southern nights.
Hope you liked that interview and that song by the Generators, Southern Nights. We're going to play some songs you've never heard of before right now, and then some songs that you're familiar with here on the Punk Rock Demonstration. Again, my website, punkrockdemo.com. Again, that's punkrockdemo.com. Tomorrow's July 4th. If you live in the United States, you'll know why that's significant. So we're going to take a listen to this brand new song by The Freeze. The song's called Nothing Left.
Put me in another home. They told me I should think of it as school. They gave me an ugly doll of Minnie Mouse. I hung it from a noose in my bathroom. Sleeping guards wait outside my window. They better make sure nobody gets in. At night, they whisper rainbow. We dare you to think about them. Nothing left, nothing at all. Got nothing left, nothing at all.
when you're asking me about who is running this, that is not. I will be so good at the military, your head will spin.
I'm down to just time, and I give all my money on a crash game close my eyes. I know it's gonna hurt, but hey, it's just a part of life. Hey, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, hey, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Being pushed over, Lord, it's gonna hurt. Nothing that I won't try. Underdog, fight called life, rise above against our odds, 'cause hey, it's just my luck. It's just my luck. Nothing that I won't try. Underdog, fight called life, rise above against our odds, 'cause hey, it's just my luck. Mistakes I made, and I took you down with me. I've lost all to know to go. I tried, I failed, and now that ship has sailed. Please give me the strength to carry on. Hard times, no escape. My rage is fueled by hate. Lies and betrayal, that's taking its toll. Time's come, let's spread. Staring into the face of death. My demons take control. I'm stuck in the middle between heaven and hell. I'm stuck in the middle between heaven and hell.
riots in the streets against Babylon oppressing you and me. Riots in the streets, yeah, riots in the streets. Stand up and question authority. Riots in the streets, yeah, riots in the streets. Wanna hear the sound of a different beat. What you gonna do when they come for you? There's a fire in the streets and we can't break through. Teach us lots of rules, but we ain't no fools. Babylon burns, Babylon burns. Let's break down love. Hypocrisy, religion go hand in hand, yet no one seems to understand. Hatred's hate, that's a fact. Black, red, black, stand up and fight. Don't you let them treat you like we act like fools. Where only people don't steal our freedom. Hatred's hate, that's a fact. Black, red, black, stand up and fight. What you gonna do when they come for you? There's a fire in the streets and we can't break through. Teach us lots of rules, but we ain't no fools. Babylon burns, Babylon burns. Let's break down
That was N.Y.C. I know that's not how you pronounce it, but that's how I pronounce it. It's a Belgian band. If you listen to the Funeral Dress interview, you'll find out how you pronounce it. I won't even attempt to pronounce it because I can't. That song's called A Different Beat, and then we heard the Agitators before N.Y.C. That song's called Paradise. The Hard Knocks with Heaven and Hell before that, and then Antagonizers ATL with Just My Luck. Shattered Faith with No Nuclear War was before Antagonizers ATL, and then we heard Corrupted Youth that we've been talking about in that interview with the Generators. That song was called Confusion, and Nacho from Corrupted Youth is throwing that Punk Invasion deal happening this month and wondering how that's going to turn out. But right now we're going to take a listen to some more new music by Voice of Addiction. This song's called Rust Belt.
In the Rust Belt, raised in these steel towns, nothing ever seems to go our way. Just slave, just grave, take away industry. God work till the day I die. God work just to survive. just don't seem right. Trust your gut is what they say. I can't shake this feeling, it just won't go away. I'm feeling bad vibes now, and no, I can't shake them. I'm feeling bad vibes now. No, no, I can't shake them. I'm feeling bad vibes now, and no, I can't shake them. I'm feeling bad vibes. No! Tonight should be like any other night, but for some reason something just don't seem right. Trust your gut is what they say. I can't shake this feeling, it just won't go away. I'm feeling bad vibes now, and no, I can't shake them. I'm feeling bad vibes now. No, no, I can't shake them. I'm feeling bad vibes now, and no, I can't shake them. I'm feeling bad vibes. No! I'm feeling bad vibes now, and no, I can't shake them. I'm feeling bad vibes now. No, no, I can't shake them. I'm feeling bad vibes now, and no, I can't shake them. I'm feeling bad vibes. No!
Never realized that there was so much to see. You know that someone was me. You never remember something you said. You know that someone was there. It's like a terminal illness groping you from behind, but somehow confused in your twisted mind. Impossible to determine what's going on in your head. The kinds of sympathies have long been dead.
Another pleasure drop, another shitty drop, another noisy drop, tick tock, tick tock. Another pleasure drop, another shitty drop, another noisy drop, tick tock, tick tock. That's all the problem, and you know I had all the circumstances in between. Another pleasure drop, another shitty drop, tick tock,
This is the Bad English, and you're listening to Punk Rock Demonstration.
Oh, yes!
All right.
From hometown here to rumble, rock and roll, we're for your kids and searching for our souls. Now I'm getting older and I'll never forget. Every time, every place, every person we met. Let's go! In the sky, we're still here, yeah, we never die. Bearing up my shoulder, patch on my eye. Living like pirates, don't ask why. Still waking up, never on time.
That was the N.Y.C with Gotta Keep Drinking. They're coming out with a brand new album that's arriving soon. Once it arrives, we'll play some tracks off that album. But right now we're going to play some of their older stuff because it's still not in the mail yet. That reminds me, that damn post office. They always tell me I've got mail on my mailbox. But when I go check it, there's no mail. Very irritating. They sent me another notice today that I've got mail. But it's a holiday tomorrow, so we'll find out. Anyways, before the N.Y.C, we heard the Bad English. That song's called Glory Days, because it's a very appropriate song for what happened last month. Frankenblazer with New Waves was before the Bad English, and then we heard Monkey Pig from Australia. That song's called Spellbound. The Lost Tapes was before Monkey Pig. That song's called Bomb Drop, and then we heard Los Brigands with Bad Vibes. I visited the Wilshire Grand Hotel, the brand new one that's supposed to be super tall. It's the tallest building on the West Coast. It had some bad vibes because the interior decorator couldn't make up their mind on how the place should be decorated, so like every single wall of the place, even portions of the wall, were a different design, and it drove me crazy because nothing was continuous and the colors were just clashing and everything was just and the whole building was like that too, so it just drove me crazy. But oh well, whatever. It's some modern design. I'm sure 100 years from now people will be like, oh wow, just like those Art Deco buildings. But anyways, we're ending off the program with this last song I'll tell you about, and what an appropriate song to play, by Ruby. This song's called Time Out. You've been listening to the Punk Rock Demonstration. Check out my show again next week on Monday at 7 p.m. Pacific Time. We're here every Tuesday as well, from 7 a.m. until 9 a.m. Pacific Time at punkrockdemo.com.
Our time is over, haven't got a clue. And I wanna know about the things you do. I wish that I could stay, but I have to go away, 'cause time is running out so fast. Because time is running out so fast. Time is my friend and my enemy. The past is done and I don't know what's waiting for me. I wish I could go back, but I have to clear the track, 'cause time is running out so fast. Because time is running out so fast. Our time is over, haven't got a clue. And I don't wanna know about the things you do. I wish that I could stay, but I have to go away, 'cause time is running out so fast. Because time is running out so fast. Because time is running out so fast. Because time is running out so fast.
Looking for the split in your identity. That's no easy right. It tortures your mind. you don't get it straight. Those with no difference, it's hard to see. There's something on its side, it has been alright. What's happened tonight?
Tricky and all such fails and distractions and being mine like all of the signs. The borderline is.
Once again it happens, you flip your lid, and I don't know what I've done. I feel like I'm done, but don't wanna run. What's going on inside your brain? You can rid yourself of all the strain. What makes a tick, tick, tick? I can do it right. It's the enemy in sight. What's going on? What do you see? Is it real or a game of fantasy? As long as we don't trust, we're doing fine. Don't trust the borderline.
In your identity, that's no easy right. A borderline game, like awful sense.
Once again I wander around lonely streets, out to watch the city lights and down to my brains, alone in the night. What's going on inside your brain? You can rid yourself of all the strain. What makes you tick, tick, tick? I can do it right. It's the enemy in sight. What's going on? What do you see? Is it real or a game of fantasy? As long as we don't trust, we're doing fine. Don't trust the borderline. As long as we don't trust, we're doing fine. Don't trust the borderline.
What's going on inside your brain? You can rid yourself of all the strain. What makes it tick, tick, tick? I can do it right. It's the enemy inside.
What's going on? What do you see? Is it real or game of fantasy? As long as we don't cross, we're doing fine. Don't cross the borderline.
We take all kind of pills and give us all kind of thrills, but the thrills we never know. It's a thrill that'll get you when you get your picture on the cover of the Rolling Stone. Gonna see my picture on the cover. Gonna buy 5 copies for my mother. Gonna see my smiley face on the cover of the Rolling Stone.
January 2011, just 3 weeks after the court injunction against the Uganda Rolling Stone, witnesses spot 3 men in a vehicle parked outside of David's home. What was to transpire was the brutal bludgeoning to death of David Kato with a hammer.
tuli bannayuganda naffe lwaki mutusosola tubeere muntu omu kulaakulana ya gavumenti ne bannanyiniyo.
Bakuchu nabo bantu.
Concrete and my head turns into
sleepyhead. Time to get out of bed. Rise and shine. There's another day ahead. Do you remember last night? You were on a pretty sight. You've had plenty of time to unwind. Get yourself together and be on time. I'll be down at the bar for that hair of the dog. The day is young, but the night will come. Gonna hit the town and have some fun. I got money to spend. Spend it with my friend. A drink or two or maybe more. Then we'll be staggering out the door. Don't know what the night will bring. I can't remember a thing. I think I had a song to sing. And it went. Life goes on. Such a barrel of fun. Life goes on. Life goes on. Such a barrel of fun. Life goes on. Beer, beer, let's have another beer. Everybody's cheering. Cheers, cheers, let's have another brew. For me and you. So cheers to all of you. Life goes on. Such a barrel of fun. Life goes on. Life goes on. Such a barrel of fun. Life goes on. Life goes on. Such a barrel of fun. It's a barrel of monkeys. Life goes on. It's a barrel of fun. Life goes on. Life goes on. It's a barrel of fun. Life goes on.
I'm gonna go to the pub now.
Life goes on. Such a barrel of fun.
I think I got a fiver. I can get, what, a pint for that or something? Used to be back in the 70s, I could probably get pissed on fucking a fiver. You know, can't get nothing for it these days. Can't even, what, a pint and a packet of fags. You won't get change from a fiver, will ya? I used to have about 4 or 5 pints of, light and bitter, I used to think in them days, and maybe even squeeze in a whiskey and orange or something like that. And probably had enough for chips after that too, you know. Fucking hell. What's the world coming to? It's a bloody disgrace, isn't it?
Still